Hey everyone, welcome back to another podcast on my channel. So excited you decided to click on this video. As you can see, today we have a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm there.
No, he's a
Sure.
special guest because actually it's crazy. We were just talking about how years ago when he came over to the house, I was like little. He said, you should start your own podcast. And, I didn't pay attention to it because, again, I was young and I just never thought in a million years I would be doing this. And now he's my first guest. So I think that's really cool.
Something. That's how God works.
Exactly. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about how technology affects your relationship with God, part 2, because I did a part 1. But I think it's important to go more in depth of it because there's so much that happens.
It's a never ending topic.
Okay. Yeah. How do you think this generation is idolizing technology?
They make technology everything. I think it's to the point where a lot of people almost don't have a life outside of it. And as it relates to God, anything you put before him can be considered an idol.
Yeah.
And that's where, that it's not a good thing. The way I look at it, like technology, there are some benefits, but then there's a lot of detriments. Yeah. And I think the detriments definitely outweigh the benefits. And that's ultimately the problem, to where it creates a dependency.
Yeah.
Almost to the point of a necessity. Like, I'm older than you, obviously, but I remember there was a time where like everything was manual.
Yeah.
But it worked. And, so now everything is electronic. It makes it like a little more less tedious, but it waters down everything.
It really does.
Yeah, I don't like it personally, and I see where it controls your life. Definitely separates you from God. It limits your time with God, and hopefully one day we go back to like the Stone Age.
I know. And like also something that I think about is the lack of creativity in this generation, because you could just do everything in a click of a button.
Mm-hmm.
Like, God gives you certain gifts to people.
Mm-hmm.
And now it feels like almost everyone can do the gifts that God has given to certain people, because out of the phone, you don't even have to think. You could just type whatever you want in and it'll do it for you.
Yeah.
And so there's like a lack of creativity in this generation and a lack of spending time doing something, because without the phone, without technology, things take time to do. Sometimes like it would take days and whatever. When people didn't have cars back then, it would take days to walk somewhere across the city or wherever they needed to go.
Yeah.
Or take days to build something. But now that we have the phone to calculate everything for us, or even do everything for us.
Instantaneous.
Exactly. Yeah. There's like a lack of creativity.
Yeah. The creativity is because you're not allowed to get into that space mentally. That's where the lack becomes. So it's like when you're young and as a child, before you get the gadgets, you can just think of all these different things. So I know I used to draw, and that was my creative thing. And then it went into poetry, but you have to really like separate yourself in order to get into that avenue. But yeah, it definitely is a deterrent. To like, people want it to be different. Now it's like everybody wants to be the same. I think that's another problem with it. We used to pride ourselves on being an individual. And then now the individual is like flushed out,
Because it's like keeping up with the trends. Whatever's trending, I have to do.
And if you don't fit into the trend, then like you don't exist. But then to me, that's problematic for society, because everybody can't fit in.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Get what I'm saying? But then they're still human beings. They just still deserve to be loved and all those things. So that is a big problem, which leads to the mental health aspect.
Yeah.
So you got kids that are comparing themselves to influencers to the point where if they don't feel like they're living up to society's expectation, they're committing suicide. And that's bad. That's definitely bad. The beauty standards, that's another problem.
Yeah. Like, again, like saying the trends, like whatever is trending, you have to do, whether that means changing your whole face shape. Because, like, I don't know if you go through the eras of like what faces were trending. At one point, it was trending to be this skinny. At one point, it was trending to
And then
be
you have to
plump.
get
At one
plump.
point, it was trending to have a thin nose. At one point, it was like, it's crazy, all of the things.
But the crazy, it never stops though. So it's like
Exactly.
once you alter yourself one way, and then that's not cool. Now you got to change it back.
Exactly. And God made you the way you are for a reason. Like,
Yeah.
don't change it
But
just
then
because.
that's self acceptance. But then again, society now is teaching people not to accept themselves. Like it's like you never just fine the way you are. You always got to do more, and that's just complications. That's unnecessary. Yeah.
And then, like, also the lack of social skills going into the next subject.
Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, when you get out there and you're active in life and participating in different things, then you have to be social. You also learn how to deal with conflict. But when you're just sitting behind the screen or sending text messages, you really just don't know how to be cordial and interact with another individual. But that affects, friendships, relationships, the workships, all the ships.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't.
And like with that, like the lack of social skills, texting is so dangerous because it just leads to you not being able to talk with your mouth, obviously just like writing it on a phone screen. And it distorts so many things. It could turn into whole arguments just because you read the text wrong, because obviously you didn't see the person's facial expressions. It goes into so many things that isn't even spiritual. It's just a physical thing that we deal with. And even when it comes to friendships, relationships, now because we could just call someone, and I'm not saying there's wrong with calling someone, but before, people had to travel to visit you, or people had to go out of their way to visit
that's what
you.
I'm saying. But I remember them days, like my friends, you would just like assume, okay, yeah, Saturday morning, he's at home, you go by there, you hang out. Like I say, you become like an active participant in life, but you don't have to do that. I mean, you can live through the devices, but that's the whole point of them having it. Like, just like even now, it's Saturday, you can look outside, there's no kids outside.
Yeah, because they're all like too busy on video games or whatever.
But then at no point, there's never any kids outside. And I mean, we couldn't wait for the weekend. Like right now, I would be playing basketball. And I mean, we'll play basketball, from sun up to sundown. And then, you may go to a park or something afterwards, or maybe go catch a movie. But again, you want it to be active, it wasn't about just laying around,
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I think you end up wasting a lot of life being that way. And at some point you have to interact. And that's where that drawback occurs. So let's say you're not used to dealing with people, but then now you have to get a job. How can you be effective in an interview and you don't even know how to talk or respond and answer questions or anything? So now it's like you're unhireable.
It literally affects your life, guys. Like, it's actually not a joke.
That's what I'm saying. So, and then it's more prevalent in your generation, but it's good. It's a good thing that you're waking up, that you think different, and then you don't have to, you can avoid a lot of those pitfalls, which that's awesome. And then hopefully, by people of your age group watching you, they'll start waking up and being able to make the same choices. Cause it is tough. It's a lot of pressure, but you really don't want to be of the world. Like the verse say, you want to be in the world, but not of it. You don't want to just, because this is not real. you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not. And then what happens, you'll just start only living from the flesh, and then you'll totally forget about the spirit.
Yeah, and the spiritual world is so much bigger than the physical realm. Like the physical realm is just a glimpse of what's going on in the spiritual realm. Like the only reason why the physical realm exists is because the spiritual realm exists. And I don't think we think that way. I think we think, oh, because the physical realm exists, the spiritual realm exists. It's opposite.
Yeah.
And so like it says in that one verse, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against spiritual principalities and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's real.
Well, yeah, because that's what's driving people. That's what I'm saying. So it's like when you're out here in life, sometimes you'll wonder why you could just be doing nothing and somebody may want to pick a fight with you. Physically, you're looking at that person, but then what is causing that person to have a problem with you and you haven't did anything? And that's the spirit. Yeah. It's the same reason, like I said, where if you choose to have a relationship with the wrong person. Now, on the worldly side, they may be the apple of your eye, but then spiritually, it can be an opposing spirit. And then as much as you want the relationship to work, it doesn't work because there's always going to be that conflict because you're missing the other half. And people really do need to wake up to that because, I mean, that's even at a job. You know, you can have a problem with a coworker and you're like, man, does this guy hate me or have it out for me? But it's that opposing spirit that's driving. Even when you're in a vehicle, you know, like with road rage and stuff like that, it's the same thing, you know.
True. And like relating to what you're saying, this kind of like sums it up. Like some people just want like the Holy Spirit inside you. Like if you have the Holy Spirit inside you, that's going to disturb other people that may have things inside of them that obviously does not like the Holy Spirit. And so that person might not even know why they're trying to pick a fight with you. That person might not even know why they feel some sort of way with you because you have the Holy Spirit inside of you and they have something inside of them that cannot stand the presence of God.
There you go. I think a good question too would be like, how do you detach? How do you do it?
That's a tricky situation because it's just like it's almost like you need technology nowadays in order
to do anything.
Wow. So it's almost hard, but I think it's setting a boundary of like, okay, am I wasting time on it right now? Do I really need to be on it right now? Or can I be doing something out of my own creativity? You know, like, are you doom scrolling? Like there's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter. Am I just scrolling just to pass time? Am I just scrolling to not think about my own emotions right now, to not think about my problems right now? Or am I actually doing something? Do I actually need to use it right now?
Yeah, one thing I thought of recently is if like you just take the apps off the phone and then just like leave them on the laptop. And then basically you can go out your whole day without scrolling, interruptions, anything. And then let's say when you came home at night, you said, I'm going to, you know, get on my laptop for maybe an hour, 2 hours, check emails, go on your social media. But then that would regulate it heavily. But when you have like all the apps and stuff on your phone, because now what's really alarming you is the notifications.
Exactly.
Unless you cut the notifications off. But even if you do that, now your screen is just full. You know what I'm saying?
So, that too. But even like, I can relate to this myself. Like even when I turn on Do Not Disturb so that I get no notifications, now I'm checking my phone every 5 seconds to make sure I have a notification or not.
I think it developed like a mild form of anxiety.
Yeah.
Because now you're expecting like, and then look at how many times you flip the phone over and then there's no alerts. You put it down, but then it's like your hand is almost, it's like a magnet or something.
Yeah, no, there's an app, like I was talking about it in my last video, but there's an app where it can calculate, you know, how much screen time and whatever and how many years you're wasting your life if you keep going the way you're going. And then at one point when I had it.
Oh yeah. So how many years?
It could waste? Check. I don't know for
like
me,
20 years.
But some people waste 20 years. It's crazy. And it's probably no less than 5 years for the average person that you waste.
Wow.
And it's crazy. And so it would calculate how many times I would flip my phone. And I don't remember how many times, but I remember it was an embarrassing
So then
amount.
that means we need to make a petition against technology or something like that.
Yeah.
But do you think that people could go back to a technology-free lifestyle?
I don't think so, unless
Well, why not?
because this world is already so corrupt. In the Bible, if you look at the prophecies, how much more corrupt it's going to get. I don't think we're going to ever be, until the rapture comes, technology free.
See, but then now that's a question I would ask too. Do you think it was worse back then or not?
I feel like it's okay. To the normal physical eye,
Yeah.
destruction doesn't seem worse.
Yeah.
But if you look in the spirit, oh, it is 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, everything's calmed down now that we have technology to calm it down. But that's not what's happening. In reality, in the spirit, it's getting worse. Because
Yeah.
people back then, yes, they were just
Well,
as corrupt in different ways.
Horrific stuff.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But, there was no hiding it. Now you can hide it.
Well, no, you can't. Man. That's because think about it. Like anything that happens, it is somebody recorded.
You know what? That's true.
Yeah.
There is cameras everywhere.
But then I think that's why people think it's worse nowadays, because everything's in your face. Like I thought about this because I used to talk to my granddad a lot when he was alive, but like he would read the local paper, he would watch like nightly news, but pretty much he only knew what was going on around him.
Yeah.
But then there was a peace that came with that. Like, I don't think that as humans that we need to know every single thing all the time.
Yeah.
To me, I think that drives people crazy.
Information overload. So I think I was watching a video on it and how the reason why we struggle with brain fog and like
It's
forgetting stuff,
too
much information at once, and the human mind physically cannot capture that. And so we're getting so much information by scrolling, looking at the news, looking at different videos of different people and whatever. And so that's causing our brain to not be able to function the way it was supposed to function because of how much is being thrown at us all at once.
Right. Yep. And then, like you say, you can't create, you can't think. Like, so it's a lot of people that they don't even remember their own phone number. Like, you can ask them, hey, I'm going to give you a call, let's network for business. And then you say, well, what's your number?
I know, it's crazy.
And then they got to scroll just to look up. But see, when I was a kid, right? So I believe that was in first grade that we had to remember the phone numbers of the 5 closest people to us for emergencies. But they don't even do that. Like, think about it. And then if you lost your phone, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then why not make like a manual backup? So it's like their contacts. And then that's what people usually say, like, oh, I lost my phone. I've lost my life. And it's like, that's horrible. And then, the artificial intelligence, that's going even a step further to where, I mean, humans are going to be obsolete.
Yeah, like they're literally building robots in place of us to have the same emotions that we have. Like AI is literally controlling us, controlling our minds, controlling our world. And
but then the thing is too, but it's not new. So we would wonder like how. So like look at like how your app, say you have a conversation about something and then that pops up on the app. But then that's not just like this year. That's been happening. You know, even like you ever notice your TV, you watching the TV, but then if you doze off, then there's a message on the screen. Are you still there?
Yeah.
But then you be like, wait a minute now. But that's when it's going too far. So they also have something you need to look into called singularity. You ever heard of that?
No.
So that's like, you remember the movie Terminator? That was like way before you, but
okay, I've heard of it. But
so Terminator it's just merging man with machine.
I'm telling you right now, movies predict what they're planning to do. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just for fun. If you think about it, the human mind is not that smart. We either get our ideas from God or the enemy. We
Yeah.
cannot physically come up with ideas. So all the movies that you see of like fantasy and like
Well, it's not
impossible
fantasy.
things.
That's what they just titled it, you know?
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
it's actually happening. Like, it's real. Like, they're implanting that. And whatever you see in the movies, most likely either that already exists or they're planning on doing it.
Mhm.
It's not just something like, for fun.
Yeah. So, but that's where it's going though. So, like I said, they want to merge man with machine, but then, like I said, they've already done it to a degree
Mm-hmm.
with the phone. Because think about it, you can't walk around the corner without your phone.
Right.
So it's when you really get down to the nitty gritty, it's a scary thing. And then you got to look at like how many people are gonna lose jobs because the AI is gonna be way more efficient.
People
Just
are
like
already losing jobs.
that's what I'm saying. But even like right now with customer service,
Mm-hmm.
let's say you got a problem with anything, you're speaking to the computer.
Yep.
Most of the time, you can't even get a real human being. But it's evil is subtle. That's how it works its way in.
Mhm.
It's like these little things,
Yep.
and then before you know it, boom, it's in your face. So
Mhm.
so it's like anything that's getting you away from God.
Yeah. And to go a little more deeper into the AI, because this is like something that, it's just getting more and more out there by the day.
Right.
How do you think it controls your mind? Do you think it controls your mind? Do you think it controls your actions? What do you think
Yeah,
about
I
it?
mean, because that's what I'm saying. So when you grab the phone, the app are working like based on your thoughts, these
Mhm.
little data points. So let's say you were looking for a face foundation, right?
Mhm.
But you take your picture, then boom, you're gonna get some type of Mac ad
Yep.
or Sephora or something like that. That's like, but then you may be like, well, man, this week I'm on a budget, but then they're gonna specifically show you the things that are on sale. So you're gonna
Mhm.
be like, okay, I'll do it. And then boom, it's got you. If
Crazy,
you,
yeah.
let's say you talk with your mom about getting a vehicle, next thing you know, you'll even get the emails from car dealerships and you like, wait a minute.
Mhm.
But that's what it's doing, and it's gonna go even further,
I can't even imagine how far technology is going to go. Like, I can't even imagine when I'm grown up and an adult what it's going to be like, because it's scary now. And like, one thing.
But then ultimately, what's the purpose? So, man is set on finding a replacement for God.
Mhm.
That's what the technology is. Because think about it. It
That's
hurts
right.
us to spend an hour in church, but then you can sit on your phone for 5 or 6 hours. But
Mhm.
it doesn't even bother you.
Yeah.
But that's where they're going. And then the more that machine can do, it almost is going to mimic God. And what it is, like people, um, because they don't understand the spiritual side, they're more in tune with the physical. So now if they make this God like machine, they can see it,
Mhm.
so they will worship it.
Whoa, that was deep. That was really
Yeah.
good. I never thought about that. But like, now going on to like making it your God and not being able to tap into the spiritual.
Mhm.
There was this lady that was saying, and a bunch of people say this, when they
Okay.
go on missions trips and they
Mhm.
go to like the places where they don't have much technology, they're
They're
not really
happier
advanced,
people.
they're happier, and the kids literally hear God. Like, they
Yeah.
can like hear the voice of God so clearly and tap into the spirit like super quickly. And here it's almost like a constant battle. Like, you have to like go completely out of your way to even be able to get a glimpse of that.
Right. But then that's because we're just being broke down in so many ways. So now on top of the technology, the diet's bad. So that's affecting it. You see what I'm saying? So society is just made now. It's just for destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look many years ago, so it was the same thing. Like families were together, you had a family unit, but then they would sit around and had a ceremonies or rituals where they really got in tune with the spirit. Like back then, because they wasn't paying bills, all these different things. So really the spirit that was the essence of life.
Mm-hmm.
But as we got industrialized, what's the point of the spirit?
Yeah.
The spirit is not going to keep my lights on.
Mm-hmm.
That's where our mindset has gone. And then it's the same thing. Like when you go out in society, nobody says, "Oh, you're a great catch because I like your spirit." No,
Yeah.
all they're going to look at is on the outside. And if you don't have it together on the outside, they don't even want to know your spirit. So like I said, we've been turned backwards in our mind.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And that I can relate to a lot because there's been a lot of people, personal testimony that I've met, that they look at me and they look at my personality and they're like, I don't think I'll click with you. But it's like, wait, you haven't even gotten a chance to meet who I actually am, like in the spirit and God. And so,
But then sometimes, they've already felt that there's a different spirit. See that you got to think about that too.
that's true.
Yep. And but then sometimes the evil sometimes can take, its time, and then sometimes it's instant.
Yeah.
But that's where you get that combativeness, and that's what we got now, spiritual warfare. So again, that's why there's so much conflict among people.
Mhm.
And what it is, it's always like a physical front, but what is going on the back end? It's just like with politics. People are just fighting and fighting and fighting. I think that's, again, a sign of madness, but this is the world that we live in, and it's pertinent that people do get back to God. I mean, I know for myself, that's what works, because the world just draws you off to where, like I said, it makes everything seem that it has to be so drawn out
Yeah.
and complex. Even like us healing ourselves, people say, "Oh, I'm a work in progress," but then a lot of time, God is instant.
It's really more simple than people make it out to be. It seems complex because we haven't gotten to the maturity to where we have to be because of this technology. But there's this guy named Kevin Zadai. I don't know if you've ever seen him, but if you haven't, watch him because he explains all of this stuff. And he says, guys, it's more simple than you think. You got healed when Jesus died on the cross. It's a matter of accepting that and declaring that over your life. And just because you don't see the physical healing doesn't mean it's actually happening. It's happening in the spiritual, and you just have to tap into it so that you can actually see the physical manifestation of it.
Right.
And it's really that simple, accepting that Jesus died for all of our infirmities, our sickness, our disease, our sins, and all that is broken. All the curses are broken. So we were healed. We just have not accepted that because this world is so corrupt. We just
that's the acceptance, and then, like I said, but then what's going on with the individual? So that doesn't kick in because you're conditioned to live like an out of body experience. Like I say, everything is about being on the outside. So it would take a lifetime for anybody to come to that revelation. And when you think about it, like even on YouTube and stuff, there's so much about the self-improvement, self-help, how to make a better life, but then it's so complex, right? But then the Bible, it's been here, and it's simple. It's like you can read like a passage and it's mind blowing, but it just cuts out all the guesswork. And that's what has worked for me in my life. When I used to always think I was, wise and intellectual and researching all these things, life actually became a whole lot harder. But when I just said, you know what, I'm letting go. The only thing I wanted and prayed for was peace. I got that. And after that, life is simple, because like, to me, nothing matters except for the connection with God. And if people can arrive at that state, I mean, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. And like, making it more simple, a lot of people don't understand that healing and just tapping into God's presence is more simple than you think too, because oftentimes what you need for healing for a certain disease that you have, whether like you have high cortisol, is literally just getting into God's creation. You literally have to step outside, touch grass, and feel the sun and look at God's creation. And oftentimes that's the healing that you need for whatever condition you have.
Mhm.
And we make it so complicated by getting medicine, by getting doctors, by doing research online. And really all you need is what God made. And what did God make? He made nature. He made the ocean. Sometimes you need to go to the beach because you need that salt water.
But why can't you do that?
Because we're so busy on our phones.
Yep. But that's what I'm saying. So the whole point is to destroy you from the inside out. But then too, you know, your diet, quality of living, all that stuff affects your mind too, which in turn affects the spiritual connection.
Mhm.
So like I said, some people are in the rat race so heavy, they, you know, most time, so like nowadays, people not even taking vacation.
Yeah.
For one, you know, you got people with, you know, 2-3 jobs
Mhm.
and a side hustle, or they're just burned out. But then that's what the enemy wants you to be at.
Mhm.
But now there's so many Americans that is caught up like that. Again, you know, I look back at, you know, my grandparents, my granddad did TV, like electronic repair. And then my grandma was a teacher. And it's like, that was it. They had 5 kids, and those were like modest salaries, but it was smooth sailing.
Mhm.
And I never even knew, you know, like a second job, third job, side hustle until the more modernized we got. Even when I was growing up, like I say, you have one job, you handle all your stuff, you're good to go. But now wages have increased, but then so has the cost of everything else. So you're making more money, but then you're really not, because look how much is going right back out, you know? And it's, like I say, it's driving people crazy, and relationships are falling apart.
Mhm.
Because now, instead of people actually being able to be happy and look at the spirit, the only thing that matters is monetary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And how also like too, how can I be better than that person? Because there's so much envy now,
Mhm.
and you might have envy without even realizing it. You could be scrolling through social media and
Mhm.
looking at a certain person and being like, "Oh, I wish I had their life," and you think it's coming out of a humble place, like, "Oh, I wish I had more." No, like you're actually
But
comparing
then
yourself
most
to
time,
people.
those people aren't happy too. You get a lot of people that
Exactly.
get that instant fame, but now they can't go anywhere. They're getting death threats, these weird phone calls. And then you
Mhm.
see a lot of time where even them influencers is like, you know, I don't even want this life.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things we fight for as normal people, the people that have it don't even want it. But then that even gives more of a stronger stance on the spirituality, because that's showing you what you're fighting for. That's not working either, you know.
Yeah.
So like people will say, well, I got to increase my value by the income. But then you look at people that are worth all these millions of dollars, and guess what? They have no friends.
Mhm.
They can't trust anybody. And then you got to think like, man, well, that's my goal, but then is it even worth it?
Mhm.
Now, you shouldn't just sit around and do nothing, but
Yeah.
you have to put everything in context, you know, but the context is the good word.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And like, you know, Jesus, beside the only reason why he was famous was because he was controversial because, you know, he was the opposite of everyone.
Mhm.
But Jesus himself didn't look for fame, okay? And he was on a mission to die for all of us. And if he didn't look for fame, we shouldn't be looking for fame. Now, however, does God give it's tough because God gives fame to certain people because they have good things to say, but then it turns evil and that's when they start selling their soul.
Mhm.
And then that's when
But then that's what I'm saying. But then what is fame really?
it's really just validation of people and self-gratification and all the glory
And
for
then
yourself.
what is vanity?
Yeah,
Vanity is vexation of the spirit.
mhm.
So see what I'm saying?
It
Yeah,
just all connects.
there you
Yeah.
go. And it's just that simple. But I don't know, man. Your generation is tough. Do you feel the pressure?
Oh, all the time on a daily. Like it's actually really bad. And I try to tell people about the oppression that I feel, but they don't quite understand.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Um,
that's because you're so happy.
yeah,
Yeah.
it could be a good oppression, but
Yeah.
sometimes a bad oppression as in like I just feel the weight of this world.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it's because of how tied down this generation is to evilness, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so anywhere I go, even in church itself, I get
Mhm.
oppressed sometimes, which is crazy.
Even in church?
Even in church, not because the church is bad or anything,
Yeah.
but because I see how, this generation is, and I see all the youth and even adults too,
Mm-hmm.
that again are so tied down to the physical realm and the evilness of it. And it just like, I don't know, it just really puts a heavy weight on me. That's why I started this podcast actually.
I would try to fight back.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I feel like we just need to bring awareness to so much stuff that a bunch of people should be knowing about. And sometimes they know, but they choose not to know
Mhm.
because it's hard to accept. I'm not even going to lie. Like sometimes even me myself, like I don't want to accept half the things that are going on now.
Give me one thing that is hard for you to accept.
Just one is crazy because it's a lot of things.
Okay.
I would say, okay, you know what? It's hard to accept that unfortunately most of the people you look up to
Mm-hmm.
are actually corrupt. And I'm not saying biblical people, like people that follow the Bible, but it's hard to accept that biblical Christianity
Mm-hmm.
is considered weird and lukewarm Christianity is just something that is normalized.
Mm-hmm.
And so you go out on a daily and you can ask people, oh, hey, do you know God? And they'll be like, yeah, I'm Christian, whatever. Cool. But when you actually talk about what it is to be a biblical Christian, to spend time with God daily, to be completely in everything you do, when I tell you everything you do, literally everything, led by the Spirit. And that's just weird, even in the church.
Right.
It's hard to accept that even churches nowadays don't even want to include the Spirit because they're so focused on.
Well, you got to get members. Yeah.
That's the thing.
And you can't ostracize your members. You see what I'm saying? So I mean, like even with the doctrine, you can do that to a degree, but you got to think of your audience. So if you offend the audience and they don't come back, you don't have a church.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have to lighten the message.
It's tough. Yeah. And there's so much more.
But then how will people in your generation like get over? Like I would say, so obviously God, is your foundation, but like, what do you say is a breaking point when you just say, you know what, I'm through. Like I don't care what other people think.
I mean, it's just,
Or is it like a constant battle?
I would say it's a constant battle, but it really depends on you too, because there's some people that just need one encounter, and most people honestly are like this, one encounter with the Lord and their whole life will change. But some people actually need to hit rock bottom in order to understand, like who's the real thing that you should be looking at, and that's God. It's kind of different for everyone because everyone lives in such different situations and circumstances.
Right.
But it's more of a matter of just like humbling yourself and realizing you're not all that. And God is, God is the only thing that will just
But
fulfill
that's what
you.
I'm saying. But that is a tough thing when you have been raised to the opposite. That's what I'm saying. Like, so like, let's say you were, high school queen, high school king, and then now you're college, valedictorian, all these things. So it's like, that's already the conditioning. You see what I'm saying? That you're high and mighty. So it's hard to humble yourself in a world where progress equals ego.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's the catch.
And
You know?
like we were actually talking about before the podcast, it's also hard to find. Yes, there's a lot of people that post about God, but there's also more people that post about things that are not of God. And so it's hard to find God in something that is used for destruction, which is technology.
Right. But I mean, but then you gotta find it within. So
Mhm.
the thing too, I think that, you know, so everybody's recording, throwing in their 2 cents, but you know, you can find it within. That's where you gotta
Mhm.
go. I think it's more entertainment, you know, to watch others, but to really get that connection, you gotta go what's inside yourself.
Yeah.
I think like if we look at certain shows or something, it may give us another perspective or plant seeds,
Mhm.
but then ultimately you still have to do the work. I think that's another point too, that no matter what you watch online, you still have to physically do the work.
Yes.
I think that's a tall task for a lot of people too, because like you just can't watch like a podcast selection
Mhm.
and then just be this new person.
That's
You know,
yeah.
you have to really change your whole entire life. So it's like if you want to get closer to God, you have to cut people off. You have to get rid of expectations. A lot of things have to change
Mhm.
in order for it to take effect. But you know, that's what some people do. Like they'll just subscribe and follow, and then it's like, oh man, this isn't working. And then they'll turn around and start hating the person they subscribed to. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, but that person can't save you. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? They can only kind of point you in the right direction.
Yeah. So yeah, that's actually something that a person in my youth group mentioned, um, correlating along those lines. He was like, sometimes the enemy will even use godly stuff that people post. I'm not saying he's using the person, but he'll use the technology and that video or whatever to get you to not spend time with God one-on-one, because
Right.
he'll get you to into the mindset of, oh, if I watch this video, that's my time with God and that's all I have to do and that's all I have to do to be saved. Watch one podcast a day or watch I don't know, someone explaining the Bible for one day and I'll be
The
saved.
audio books.
The audiobooks too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not just a matter of you like, you could go to church and still not be a Christian. It's a matter of your
Yeah,
personal
but how does
relationship.
that happen?
Because there's people, even demons attend the church.
No way.
In some
No,
churches,
listen.
yeah, like the devil knows even reading the Bible. Okay.
Mhm.
The devil knows the Bible back to back. And that's why he's able to twist it so well to where we get confused. It's
Mhm.
not a matter of just, reading the Bible and going to church. It's a matter of actually applying those things to your life and personally getting deeper revelations and be willing to change and have that relationship with God. It's like a person, like, okay, let's say I'm going to hang out with my friend
Mhm.
and I'm not going to pay attention to her the whole time, but I'm still with her. So
Yeah.
that, then what's the point? The whole
Right.
point is to have a relationship with that person.
Right.
And so that we're missing that. And it's something that is so basic, but of course, it's hard to get those revelations in this generation.
Why would you say it's basic?
It's basic because if you just read the Bible, it explains it right there.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, going back to what you said, we make things so complex. We make things this whole thing because we don't want to let go of the things.
We don't want to let go of the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it says in one verse, you can't drink out of the cup of demons and out of the cup of the Lord. And so if you're in the world and trying to be with God, it's not going to work. You have to let go of the things that are holding you back, which is this world. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But that's a tough thing, you see, because so that's another deep thing too. So the godly life, the benefits people don't necessarily see, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now most people are going to say that it's just not valid. You know, again, we've been conditioned to where if I do this, then I get this. You see what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
like, if you worship God, now it's like if you say, I have perfect peace, then they're going to say, well, where is that? I can't touch. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that is the trick that we've been conditioned to where we're always like, we're domesticated animals,
Yeah.
like dogs. So if I do this, I need a treat.
Mhm.
That's what we've been reduced to.
That's actually something we were literally just talking about in youth group. Was it
Mhm.
on when? I think it was on Wednesday. There was
Mhm.
something they were saying like, there's a thing of looking at rewards after you do something. And yes, because there is a
That's
reward in
animal.
heaven.
That's animal life.
So yes, it depends
Yeah.
how you look at it.
Yeah.
So like, just because you spend time with God doesn't mean you need a whole celebration. Like that should be something you do in general. Just
Yeah.
because you get a task done doesn't mean you need to like you're saying, like we need a treat.
Mhm.
But you can also look at it in the way that, there's always a reward in heaven for each thing we do, but that shouldn't be the goal to get the reward. You should be doing that because
Yeah.
in general, we should be worshiping God and giving him the glory in everything we do because that's what he created us for.
Yeah.
So I think we've turned it into just something that, like you said, we're like animals. Like we need a treat after everything we do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like if I work, I need the money now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I help somebody, something good has to happen for me. But in the form of, money.
Physical.
Yeah, something like that. And you get all out of tune with the spiritual side. But yeah, I hope people do start waking up. But then some people like to suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Because they're
something.
comfortable.
Well, I mean, they don't have no choice. I mean, if you really look at what's going on out here in society, it is a very tough feat to overcome the world. That's what I'm saying. So you got to look at like there's personalities, right? Like some people are more inclined to be people pleasers. So how does that person break free from almost how they're wired? You see what I'm saying? Now you have people that are more like loners. It's going to be easier for that person to come out of the world. But I would say that there's probably less loners than people that are inclined to, be people pleasers and stuff like that. So that plays a part into it as well. And, it's social settings as well. Sometimes, like you said about the lukewarm Christian and stuff like that, sometimes that the lukewarm is their social setting.
Yeah.
So it's like they may not necessarily believe in God, but they just jump into it because that's what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
So now, even what was last year, it was like a movement where it was younger people getting back in the church and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But
when
then
that
a lot
movie
of people
came out.
joined. Yeah, but like you said, it was a trend. It's not the real deal, And if they don't get certain things, then they just give up. Like I remember I was talking to a guy about like turmoil and tribulation. So a lot of people become disenchanted with God because they feel that as soon as I get the relationship, I'm not going to go through anything in life. And I was telling him like, man, that's crazy.
If anything, complete opposite.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, you're gonna go through more, and that's
Yeah.
what I told him. I say, think about Jesus did the right thing all the time, and nobody liked him. You know what I'm saying? So,
But to interject there real quick, because a
Yeah.
lot of people are like, why should I even start a relationship with God if I'm just going to go through more? You won't go through more because God is going to all of a sudden, like, throw things at you.
Yeah.
You're going to go through more because the devil knows you're stepping into what
yeah,
is the truth, and he doesn't like that. So he's
Yeah.
going to do everything in his power to get you out of where you're stepping into.
yeah,
So, it's not that God does bad things to people. It's that the devil doesn't want you to start a relationship with God or keep a relationship with God because.
But then sometimes you get humbled though, to God as well. Because sometimes if you get too high up on your high horse, then something kind of mellow you out. Cause you have to have, the balance in life. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And once you get away from that, you start to go too far one way or the other. But, yeah, people got to get back to holy ground, man. I hope, as people watch this, they'll start thinking
Yeah.
and start wanting to, change the way they live. Cause, being connected to God, it's a wonderful thing. Yeah. Like I
Really
say,
is.
I know it really helped me, cause for a while, like I say, once the internet was really kicking up, I started learning all these new things. And then it's like, you see it like, nah, God, this is crap.
Yeah.
This is not real. And then it was like, after so many years of just conflict and just going in circles, like one day you just look around and then it's like that's all the proof you need. It's like you look at the way plants grow, or
Yeah.
the trees fill to the air, and you're like, man, like who could put all these things together? Like in one podcast I recorded the other day, a guy was asking me like, what would convince him to believe? And then something just hit me and I was like, think about the sun. And he was like, well, what do you think? I say, well, notice how the sun is just near us enough to heat the planet, but not burn us up when you think of the temperature. But how does that work if it's not of divine? You know what I'm saying? It's just, that's insane. And then even after I said it, I even myself had to start like, man, that's just crazy. But then it's not that it starts moving in.
Yeah.
It's like it's right there. there,
And then how is it that there's just so many things that the earth rotates, but we're not literally rotating. Like,
That's
how
what I'm saying.
okay. And then there's also oranges. I know that seems so basic, but they're literally pre-sliced fruit. You know what I mean?
Inside the shell.
Yeah, inside the shell. And it's just crazy. And going back to the sun, I heard something where if the sun was just a little bit farther back or a little further forward, it would explode. Yeah. And so, there has to be a higher power, and that higher power is God. It's not the Big Bang Theory, whatever.
Like even medicine. So think about how many natural things you can take that cures you, but then the things you buy in the store, they only make you worse.
In different ways, yes. So the cure for every disease, and I'm telling you this right now, every single disease, I don't care what it is things that God has already put on this earth. It is not man-made. It is things you're going to find that comes out of the ground, that comes out of trees. Well, that basically comes out of the ground too, but and we just, again, because man thinks they're smarter than God, they come up with all these solutions and things that actually end up getting you worse in different ways.
And then ultimately, man is just destroying the planet. The more we industrialize, like I remember even Florida was just a lot greener. And now it's like they just keep mowing the trees down. But I mean, it's like a war on trees. You know what I'm saying? They see a plot of trees and they just mow it down. And then it's concrete structures. And, they keep flying out to space, all these different things. But we should be okay with just being okay. They just keep pushing. And it's insane, man. It's mind blowing. But yeah. So on that note,
we could pray out.
Yeah.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for the opportunity of getting to do this podcast and having a special guest, Dale, on this podcast. I thank you for using him in mighty ways and for being a strong warrior for your kingdom. Lord, I pray that every single person that watches this video would start thinking of how they can get a better relationship with you, and that this would expose the darkness and expose truth, so that truth would be implanted into every single person's mind, and we would start thinking in the ways of the Spirit, not our own flesh. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen.